discussing the latest MLB trade rumor right here on the True Mets Talk podcast. And this time it is courtesy of Ken Rosenthal surrounding the Pittsburgh Pirates organization and one starting pitcher on their team that could be on the move this offseason. Usual orders of business before we fully dive into this report. And I can tell you all how this could be a fit for the New York Mets. Make sure to smash those thumbs up buttons on the channel. Subscribe to the channel using the icon in the lower right-hand corner. And make sure to check out all the previous content. A lot of short videos, a lot of long-form videos like this one, and a lot of streams up on the channel. So don't miss out all the latest news, rumors, and reports surrounding our beloved team from Queens this offseason. Okay, per Ken Rosenthal, the Pirates are open to trading a starting pitcher, but that is not named Paul Skeens. So I'm sorry to burst the bubble of all you Mets fans, and I'm sure that there's plenty that are hoping and holding out hope for a potential Paul Skeens to Queens trade this offseason. That is not happening. That is not happening for a good while. So hold your horses on that. But my mind directly goes to two names, either Jerry Jones or Mitch Keller. And we're talking about one of those names here, and I'm sure you all know because he was directly linked to the New York Mets this past trade deadline, who we're getting to. But this is where it fits. This is where this type of trade fits. The return would need to be a hitter that would go directly into the Pirates lineup in 2026. You're probably talking about maybe a young and up and coming player that has MLB experience, or right, an established veteran bat. And we'll get into the report and how this Rosenthal report links to the latest Passan article that named one New York Mets player that could be on the move as well. All right. It is Mitch Keller. We're talking about Mitch Keller if you didn't get that from the context clues. Yes, the Mets were engaging in some sort of talks that we know of this past MLB trade deadline. And we even talked about this as fans as a potential fit last offseason, potentially trading for Mitch Keller. But you see the contract breakdown here from his Spotrac page. It's really not a bad contract when you take it into account the 5-year extension that he signed in Pittsburgh for the 2026 season, because he's not going to be an unrestricted free agent until after the 2028 season when his contract runs out. So that is 3 years of service you can get of Mitch Keller. 2026, he's slated just around $17 million. For 2027, it's about 18.5. And for 2028, it's about 20.5. So it's an ascending contract, but still, when you take a look at the inflation prices of some of these pitching contracts that are coming out, like Dylan Cease, this is kind of a bargain. But with some of the metrics, I have a lot of questions surrounding Mitch Keller, and I'll get into that here on the next slide of whether or not I think he moves the needle for the Mets rotation to get better. But going back to the Rosenthal report and that last piece of who could be coming back in return to the Pirates to fit into their lineup, this has Jeff Mcneil's name written all over it. I can see a scenario where they push for Mark Vientos, a little bit of a younger player, more control, whereas you have Jeff McNeil going into an expiring contract year. Last year worth $15.75 million. So the money works here, right? The Pirates and the Mets can split the difference here in 2026 between the two valuations of Mitch Keller and Jeff McNeil. And then the Pirates get the 2027 and 2028 money off the books, and the Mets would solely be responsible for that $18.5 and $20.5 million respectively over the next 2 seasons before the contract runs out. But yeah, this is as soon as I saw this report, even with the Mets not being mentioned, there's a light bulb that went off in my head, and I was just like, Mitch Keller for Jeff McNeil, it makes sense. Pirates are cheap. They're going to want that money off the books. They're going to want to somewhat compete in the NL Central, this year in 2026. Jeff McNeil is a veteran player. Passan has linked the Pirates as being a fit for Jeff McNeil. That could be a true 1-for-1 deal. And let's be honest. The Mets are talking about a lot of pitching options. Nothing is off the table. We've been talking about more premier names recently, especially with the video that I dropped yesterday regarding a blockbuster potential trade with the Twins surrounding Joe Ryan and Byron Buxton. But the money isn't the issue here, right? Under Steve Cohen, until the CBA, hinders teams around the league spending top dollar, nothing is going to hinder Steve Cohen to spend money. So this 2027 and 2028 valuation for Mitch Keller, not the issue. The issue is, does David Stearns think that this money lines up for a player that can be an impactful arm in this rotation and spending the asset of Jeff McNeil for a guy like Mitch Keller as opposed to getting maybe a viable reliever in return for Jeff McNeil to kind of bolster the bullpen in the front end. That is the difference in what we are talking about right here. And let's get into some of the metrics because that gives us and that gives me my direct answer. I'm not sure if I buy into Mitch Keller. That would have been a great deadline move to get a, I guess, somewhat reliable arm, especially in the second half when we know the rotation fell apart. But trying to build a competent rotation alongside Manaea, Clay Holmes, David Peterson, and now Nolan McLean, who's established, and maybe even Brandon Sproat, I don't know what Mitch Keller provides you because I think of Mitch Keller and his upside being a potential maybe number 3, but definitely number 4, number 5. And the New York Mets, with the names that I just mentioned, especially with Peterson, Senga, Holmes, Manaea, those guys are 4s and 5s. They have too many 4s and 5s and not enough 1s and 2s and 3s. So, and with what he posted in 2024 and 2025, the last 2 seasons respectively, I can't call him a number 3. I don't think that this lines up to being a number 3. 4.28 versus 4.19 in the ERA category. Yes, ERA is not the end-all be-all, but let's take a look at some of the metrics. He has a big arsenal, a big pitch mix, right? That is well known about Mitch Keller. But he does not have put-away pitches. 21.5%. The strikeout rate actually went down in 2025 compared to 2024 to only 20%, which is below league average. So that means he must be relying on some sort of weak contact, but that's not even the case there with the hard hit rate. I guess the saving grace here for Mitch Keller is that he doesn't walk hitters and he has a general command of all of his pitches. That's the saving aspect here of maybe why David Stearns could be interested because he does not walk hitters. But is that enough to really warrant a trade for Mitch Keller? In my mind, no. At this point of his career, 29 years old, 3 years left of service, this seems like a David Stearns type of move because all you have to do is let go of Jeff McNeil, but this is not going to move the needle in the Mets rotation. This is the same production that you're going to get from a guy like Sean Manaea. Clay Holmes will probably be a little bit better than this. I think Clay Holmes, as much as I don't like Clay Holmes as a starter, and I'm not really convinced and bought into what he produced in 2025, call me crazy, maybe I'm in the minority there and thinking that, but I think that he's even better than Mitch Keller. So, like I said, the fit of how I can see this trade happening is different than the fit of me wanting Mitch Keller on this team. I don't see it happening. I don't want Mitch Keller. Even if it is for Jeff McNeil, I'd rather take that bullpen arm, a competent bullpen arm, to put in the front end to complement the other names that are coming back alongside Devin Williams and maybe even Edwin Diaz, who we talked about with the Mets being far apart on contract extension talks with Edwin Diaz. So let me know, Mets fans. A lot to process here. Mitch Keller, Jeff McNeil. You can also think about maybe Mark Vientos, but I definitely wouldn't do that deal. There's not many players around the league that I would not trade Jeff McNeil and Mark Vientos for. I think they're super expendable for the New York Mets, but I think that you can get a little bit more value in return in other areas of need rather than getting a pitcher that mirrors some of the other names that are already in your rotation and will be in your rotation for 2026. So if you like this video, make sure to hit those thumbs up buttons. Again, this is a super unique video because I always tell you all, I'm in on this name. I want this name. I don't want Mitch Keller. I don't want Mitch Keller. But if you want Mitch Keller, let me know in the comment section down below. Share your thoughts and opinions. As always, I'll see you all next video. Let's go Mets.